When it comes to tactics and trying to determine what the best way of doing something is, it's been my experience that sometimes people need different levels of convincing. For some people, they just need to have a conversation about it and they might say, okay, I get it, I understand, that makes sense. For some people, they might need to see a demonstration. For other people, they might need to do it in training, hopefully in training and not doing it for the first time in real life before they kind of understand maybe what the safest, most efficient way of doing something is. And then for other people, they just need to hear it from a particular person who has the most training before they say, okay, well, since he's saying it, I guess now that validates, this tactic or this technique. Over the past several years, 3 or 4 years that I've been on social media talking about these things, there's been arguments for or against certain tactics or ideas, and it's important to me that I address these arguments and provide information that is either for or against the arguments that are being made, because ultimately that's how we evolve, that's how we learn, and that's how we're going to choose what we believe is the best way of doing something. Now, there's been 2 concepts that are, for some reason, still controversial, and that is deliberate CQB and surrounding callouts. You've probably heard online that if you do deliberate CQB, that means you have a low skill set, or if you do surrounding callouts, that means you have a low skill set. Of course, that was never true and is not true, and in this video, I'm going to cover why those things are not true. Some of these videos that you're going to see, I've shortened them up so they're not as long as if you've already seen them before, because I've talked about them before, but I wanted to get all of these videos in one video so you guys could have a single video to reference rather than bits and pieces of the things that I've been sharing. So we're going to start 7 months ago, where Matt Bissonette of SEAL Team 6, I think he did 13 years on SEAL Team 6, and he was on the Bin Laden raid, where he talks about the evolution of CQB.
One of the biggest things that we had learned and evolved through was the tactics we were taught, CQB, right? It's hostage rescue clearance when you're in a building, right? It's all about speed. Over time, we were using these old school hostage rescue tactics to assault buildings where there was no hostages in, right? So why do we need to throw a flash crash in the room and then immediately run in here and do our clear left, clear right, old school CQB stuff when there's no hostage in here? Wouldn't it be much safer to stay at the door of the room and pie the whole door from the space where you're much safer and less chance of getting shot back? So we had started evolving our tactics, right? It was no longer hostage rescue clearance. It was combat clearance, and combat clearance meant we're slower, much more methodical. There was no reason to just run in the room and clear things.
Now, the argument made after I talked about that video was that deliberate CQB is only at night, under nods, and when the walls are ballistic. And I tried to explain people that that mentality doesn't make sense. That methodology doesn't make sense. You're saying that when we can't be seen and we're in the cover of darkness and we're utilizing nods, that we need to focus or be concerned about overexposing ourselves at the threshold, but that when it's daytime and we're not under the cover of darkness and we're not using nods and we can be seen, we're just going to default to overexposing ourselves at every opportunity. It never made a lot of sense. Here's a video of the Delta operator that I found online where he's talking about deliberate CQB, and this is all in order, by the way. And so in this video, he is talking to Forward Observations Group, is my understanding, before they went to Ukraine. And I am under the impression, based on the title or the description of the video where I got it from, that he was an active, or is or was an active Delta operator. He is wearing a uniform and he does have his unit patch on his shoulder.
And that's where it is huge to, one, get your SOPs, know how you do things, and take your time pieing. Because if you do go into, even if they just got PV-14s, they can see your silhouette. Don't expose yourself if you don't have to.
Now, sometime after I posted that video of the Delta operator talking about take your time pieing, Forward Observations Group came back from Ukraine or was in Ukraine, and they made a post, essentially in the post, and I'm paraphrasing here, just saying that rushing to your death doesn't work, moving fast, CQ, that type of CQB over there doesn't work, hinting at the point that deliberate work is how things are being done. And Slade commented on that post and said, so you're saying rushing to your death doesn't work? And they responded, my current research is pointing to, no, it does not. I've been using combat videos for years on this channel, on Instagram and everywhere else, pointing out that you might have this idea of how you think something should happen or how the fundamentals of CQB are going to be executed. But in those videos, I'm pointing out, how are you going to do that here? And if you even attempted to do that in those situations, you're taking on excessive amounts of risk that isn't necessary, because you're not going to get to your positions of domination. There's rubble on the ground. There's furniture all over the place. There's doors hanging off the hinges. And this has been true in Israel, and this has been true in Ukraine. And so I don't need to go over there to point these things out to you and tell you that, yeah, it's probably not the way that it's going to happen. But again, people were still hung up on the only at night, only under nods, and only when the walls are ballistic. So in this next video here, this is Brent Tucker answering a question on his podcast, or one of the podcasts that he was on. I overlaid some footage from Forward Observations Group just because the footage of Brent on his podcast is like really not good. But this is him answering a question from somebody in his audience.
Does your former unit still only do deliberate with mandatory requirements of it being at night and ballistic walls? No, that's not necessarily. We'll do it. We'll do it whenever it requires. Day, night,
Same.
ballistic walls, non-ballistic walls. It all that matters. We have shields. We'll bring ballistic walls if
Do what we gotta
need to.
do.
Yeah, right. Don't get trapped in this box of we can only do this under these certain conditions.
That's a very conventional mindset.
Yeah.
So there you have Brent Tucker, former Delta operator at the what people would consider the very top place you could ever be in CQB training and experience, saying doesn't matter day or night, doesn't matter ballistic walls or non-ballistic walls, and we'll even bring shields with us, right? And so that kind of squashes the argument, in my opinion, that this is only for this very specific set of conditions or set of circumstances. And like he said, which is what I've been saying as well, is, you know, not placing yourself inside a box.
Delta Force operates at the speed of war. And they came out and said, hey, we're doing this new thing called a callout. And we're like, what? No, we legitimately want you to call the bad guys out. Stop, come out with your hands up. And we joked about it. We were like, what? Delta Force is telling us to not kick in doors, not blow in doors and kill bad guys? They want us to call them out with megaphones? And we're like, why? And they explained why. And then we blew it off. I mean, we did it because it's Delta. We listened to them. So if we would have hit that target like all the other organizations hit targets, we would have paid with it in blood and life.
Now I know what you're thinking. Well, that's the military, and under certain military conditions, surrounding call out is authorized, but in law enforcement, we shouldn't be doing a surrounding call out because we're not the military. So here is Brent Tucker and Kyle Morgan on the Tier 1 podcast answering a question from somebody in the audience, and they're talking about surrounding call out.
I'm a big proponent to call outs, as you know. Like,
I have no issues
if
with
they're
them.
like,
Outside
we
of
have to
hostage
be
rescue.
ready. We have to be ready for crisis century. We got to train to that no fail mission.
Yep, exactly.
But man, set the conditions. If the answer to the question is, if you're being honest with yourselves, is no one and nothing in this building, this structure, this battle for morality in the confines of a structure is worth us getting hurt to obtain, then why would we not use every resource we have? What's the one that we don't have enough of? But time.
Yeah.
And turn the power off, gas them out, but be prepared to, when you commit to going through that doorway.
So there you have Kyle Morgan saying he's a fan of surrounding callouts, and then you hear Brent Tucker say, I am too, with the exception of hostage rescue. And then Kyle goes on to say, you know, this battle for morality, you know, what inside this structure is worth us getting hurt right now. And the reason that he's associating proximity, you know, inside the structure with, you know, moving quickly or just getting inside and separating, you know, callouts is because you are at a higher risk of getting shot or killed the closer you are to the objective, and even more so the closer you are standing to the front door. I've been on this thing lately where I've been exposing the dangers of being in the fatal funnel, which there's a reason why it's called the fatal funnel, and that's where most officers are killed, at the front door, and second to the front door is interior doors. Now the argument that I've been trying to rebuttal, and I'm going to continue to do this, is, well, being at the door is a speed problem, right? Well, that's because we're at the front door and we're not inside. Because if we got inside, you know, then it would be less dangerous because we're not standing at the front door. Well, the problem with that is it becomes really difficult to determine or identify how fast is fast, how much time is too much time. I've shared that video with you with the officers who knock, announce, right? Because that's typically what we do in law enforcement. They breach the door. I think they hit the door, you know, 3 to 5 times, and within 8 seconds of doing that, they're being shot at. 2 officers are shot at the front door before they're able to return fire. And then it's, okay, you know what? It's too dangerous here at the door. Let's get behind the Bearcat and get behind cover and let's call these guys out. And it turns out, oh, we called them out, and even the shooter came out and we got him into custody. And so there is no way to mitigate all risk. There is no way to remove all the danger from what we do, because the job is inherently dangerous and there is inherent risk that we have to take. But there's a difference between taking necessary and unnecessary risk.